Detroit, also known as the Motor City, has seen Indycar racing come and go plenty of times throughout the years, the longest streak being from 1989 to 2001, then again in 2007 to 2008, and then of course from 2012 to the present day. Today, Detroit Belle Isle Circuit will see yet another showing of IndyCar action. Hello one and all, and welcome to Race Spot TV on the iRacing Esports Network to the VRCE Classic IndyCar Series. My name is Nolan Rempel with the one and only Rob Howden beside me today, as always, and Tyler Maxon behind the cameras for today's race. Now Rob, these drivers are no strangers to road course racing, but with Detroit being a street circuit, it's always a new type of beast.
Yeah, I like the fact that we're coming to something a bit new here, Nolan. We just came off that race at Zolder. That was a much different circuit, of course. And anytime you talk about the tracks these guys get to, it's all about how close can they get to the edge. What kind of runoff does the particular facility have? Well, I think we all know that Detroit, very short on runoff. You make a mistake here, you find yourself in the wall. So every corner, around every bend, every apex, there is peril. Drivers need to be smart to be able to get themselves to the finish of another one of these events.
Speaking of mistakes, let's move over to Joshua Chin. Of course, last year Chin dominated the race, but as you and I both know, Rob, he has not been too hot on road courses this season. In fact, every single race, he has cost himself the win via self-inflicted incidents. Usually he's managed to recover, all right, save for, of course, Zolder, but Detroit is definitely a track where there is no margin for error, and if he makes a mistake here, it is going to cost him dearly.
Yeah, the thing for Chin is the fact he's been so good. Obviously won both of the oval events this year. Got the season started with a victory in Fontana at Auto Club Speedway. Was able to back that up 2 races later at Phoenix International, grabbing the win there on the oval. But as you said, he has had some issues on the road courses. Not in terms of speed, though, because it's all been there. He's been very quick at all the races in St. Petersburg. The St. Petersburg copy, which we ran at Sebring, he was unbelievably fast there. Of course, we ran at the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit. He was very quick there as well, and at Zolder. But as you said, just that little mistake here and there, and that's all it takes, is one little mistake. And at Zolder, he was leading going into turn number 1 when he looped the car around and made contact with the tires on the inside of the racetrack. He'll want not to do that here today. As you said, Nolan, so crucial for, I think, him to get back on a road course and potentially get a win. Even a top 3, I think, would be a success for Chin, Nolan, because he needs to have a good run. He's just behind Lucas LaVille in the point standings right now with another oval coming up in a couple of weeks in New Hampshire. If he could have put a big race victory in this weekend here today, it'll take him into that spring break, or summer break rather, after the race at New Hampshire.
And of course, right now, because of that big mistake at Zolder, Joshua Chin did lose out in the points lead. He's right now sitting just 6 points behind Lucas LaVille. Of course, Robert Groscher, last week's winner, is currently 38 points behind Chin, sitting in 3rd place, with Jamie Wilson right on his heels for 4th. Wilson, of course, trying to get into the podium positions here in the championship standings. Andrew Wood rounding out the top 5. 10 points down to 137 overall. Should note as well, though, that Joshua Chin is looking to have a really good run here. Right now, he's the fastest man in practice by about almost a second, a solid 8/10. Should note as well, he was 4/10 up on Lucas LaVille in qualifying earlier on, and he beat his last track record by a 1/4 of a second as well.
You know, Nolan, the interesting thing is after the big win for Robert Groscher at Zolder, both he and Lucas even said that in the post-race interviews, that they knew how good Chin was going to be when we got to Detroit. So it was good for them to be able to get those results in 1st and 2nd, of course, in Belgium. They all knew that Joshua Chin is going to be unbelievably good here. He dominated the action, as you said, last year when the program came here to Detroit, to Belle Isle. Looking great out of the box as well. As you said, quickest driver in practice, now 8/10 quicker than Matt Molnar here early in qualifying. Again, this will be an option, I think, where a guy like Lucas LaVille comes in with the point lead. He may get aggressive to try to find a way by. If they're able to get him behind them, it may be one of their only opportunities, because this particular racetrack, as we know, very tough to pass on.
Very tough to pass on indeed. And well, with this in mind, we should see who might have the best shot at going for a win here today as we move things on over to qualifying as we prepare for the race, as we're going to show you how things are going to line up for today. It's, of course, Joshua Chin, the man that dominated last year's race on pole position. Lucas LaVille down in 2nd with Robert Groscher in 3rd. Jamie Wilson is down in 4th place. You have Timo Isunimi down in 5th with Matt Molnar in 6th. Liam Quinn in 7th with Jos Vandeven in 8th place. Jen Hoffman and Josh Baird round out the top 10 in 9th and 10th. In row number 6, it's Johnny Garrett and Karsten Broadway. Andrew Aiken and Niall McBride in 13th and 14th. Randy Shoemake and Andrew Adair Saunders in 15th and 16th. Caleb Weekly and Franz Josef Stumm in 17th and 18th. Only 19 cars on the grid today. Luka Lektovic going to round out the field for today. Well, Rob, just waiting on 2 more drivers to grid up before the pace car is going to set them off what will be a short pacing run around this circuit. What are your final thoughts here before we take to the green?
Well, like I said, I think that the guys from Vortex are going to have to get really aggressive, especially on this opening lap, to potentially put Joshua Chin back to second or third. That's going to be the really initial opportunity to potentially get by him. But again, as we've seen, different pit strategies from these drivers have made things very exciting over the first number of races here this year. For me, obviously, turn 1 and turn 2, how they get through there, then that long run down to turn number 3. That's a great overtaking opportunity with a move to the inside. I think those corners, 1, 2, and of course 3, and into the rhythm section 4, 5, 6 will be very important here on the opening circuit.
Well, just one more corner to go now before we go racing. The pace car is going to pull it on down. It's going to be in the hands of Joshua Chin, who desperately needs a win here today. On the loud pedal early through the final corner. The green flag flies. We are racing in the Motor City already. The top 2 breaking away side by side for 3rd and 4th. There goes Jamie Wilson from 4th place. Round the outside of turn 1. And big wiggle there from Robert Groscher. He had a big tank slapper. He's going to get things settled. And now Groscher under fire by Timo Isinimi in the run down to the hairpin.
Yeah, turn number 2, Nolan's so sketchy because when you come over top there's a bit of a hill, so there's a rise. You get on the throttle, you start losing some of the weight on the car, and the car can spin around. We've seen drivers snap loose on the exit of turn number 2. Groscher luckily able to get it back woed up and in the right direction. But out front, not surprisingly, Joshua Chin taking full advantage of that pole position. He'll lead as they work their way now down that back straightaway.
Indeed he will, and Jan Hoffman had a bit of a moment down in 9th place. He's now out of the top 10. Had a little clip with the curves and luckily just managed to keep it settled, but he does have some damage now on that front wing, which might hinder him in the faster speed corners. But right now it's looking very, very secure for a lot of these drivers further to the front of the field as they throttle their way around the fountain on this island. And I'll tell you what, it's been a very, very clean start to this race. Certainly has been good for a lot of drivers. One driver that did have a couple moments, was Lukas Lektovic and Andrew Adair Saunders. Those are 2 drivers that had to make pit road starts today. They have a lot of work to do to catch back up to the field.
Yeah, indeed. To start that far back at the very beginning, they're going to need a full course yellow, and it's not something I expect to see here throughout this event. A good start for the drivers, getting things underway. Again, a big jump for Joshua Chin as he's able to pull away. A driver we know he knows how to get around this racetrack. It'll be his race to lose, I think, more than any that we've seen so far this year. If he can, again, avoid the mistakes he's made on the road courses so far this year, he'll potentially be able to take the point lead back from Lucas LaVille. But the Vortex driver in second place right now. It's been a very consistent season for the veteran driver Lucas LaVille, running P2. Jamie Wilson now in the 3rd spot. Matt Molnar, he's been very, very impressive over the last couple of races. Molnar now working his way up into the 4th position. Robert Grosser coming off that win at Zolder, now capping off the early top 5.
Yes, indeed. So looking a bit further down through the order, it's of course taking a look at Liam Quinn right now. He's trying to reel in Jos van de Ven just off the road ahead of him. These drivers now heading through one of the slower sectors. This is one of the closest battles on track at the moment as Quinn taking a bit of a tighter line through the hairpin and trying to still find some way to close in. It is such a difficult track to pass, and that is the nature of road course racing. One car into the wall up ahead, and that is Jamie Wilson, who's just crashed out of 3rd place and self-inflicted error, got a bit of a tank slapper on the way into the corner, and shot the turn and slammed into the concrete barrier.
Have a look at the replay here. The issue for Jamie Wilson, again, one of the top drivers in the program, coming in 4th place in points, just got a little wide coming down that corner. And we've seen that happen many times before. You said the car got a little loose on him, a little tank slapper into the wall. Tough way to start the race here in Detroit.
Absolutely, and that really just does showcase one of the big problems with this circuit that a lot of drivers might struggle with throughout the day is, of course, those curbs. Usually you like to see these drivers jumping over the curves, but it's not going to help you today, as if you hop over the curves and you end up running wide, you are going to be pushing right up into a concrete barrier, which is the one thing you don't want to see. We almost saw this happen on lap 1, but thankfully that incident didn't manage to sort itself out. And now all of a sudden, that has really split this entire field up, as now a lot of drivers are not running more than a few tenths together.
Yeah, Nolan, this is one of the things about this racetrack. We talk about the drivers, whatever facility they're at, driving at the absolute razor's edge. You want to push to the edge. You don't know where the edge is until you go over it. But that's something you really can't do here in Detroit, because you find the edge over at the other side is that concrete wall. And all we got to do is look back to last year's NTT IndyCar Series duel at Detroit when, the veteran, the legend himself, Scott Dixon, made a mistake. Not just so much on the exit, he made the mistake at the apex. You got to hit your marks, all three, entry, apex, and exit. Scott just turned in a little early, hit the right front tire on the curb trying to come through, and it shot him off. I believe it was over to turn, either coming out of turn 13 or to turn 12. Ended up trying to roll so much speed that he got into the wall. You can make a mistake here so easily. Now watching this battle here for 9th and 10th, Jan Hoffman running in the 9th spot, Johnny Garrett in 10th, and just a little further back there as well as Carson Broadway. But a mistake around every corner. All it takes is that minor little loss of focus. Nolan, you can find yourself in the wall and changing your prospects for the day.
Josh Baird had a big look down the inside of Liam Quinn, actually dive bombed up the inside down to the hairpin down at turn 3. Of course, Quinn didn't manage to pull around the outside, and he's kept that position now, but barely, as Josh Baird is clearly on the hunt. He's trying to find some way down. Really, the only place where you can really make a reasonable pass is, of course, in that hairpin, and 9 times out of 10, it is going to be through a dive bomb attempt. And it's so easy to run wide and nose it into the barrier and clog the whole track for cars behind you. It's something that we've seen time and time again as Baird continues to try to reel in Liam Quinn. You can see we're watching Quinn now. That is, of course, Baird just up the road behind him. And it's been a good race so far. One driver is around. Niall McBride has just crashed out of 12th place as well. And again, another self-inflicted error. This time, though, got on the throttle a bit too early and nosed it into the concrete barrier himself. And we had another crash just ahead of him as Jan Hoffman has also had a crash in the same area.
Yeah, watching that replay there, wasn't a real clean entry, I think, for Niall McBride. Had to put too much wheel to get it back to where he wanted to be in terms of the exit race line, then rolled on the throttle just a little too aggressively, as you said. And the rear end of these cars are going to go around pretty quickly. High horsepower machine, this Dallara IL05. And again, great to see these guys here at the Classic IndyCar Series run in Detroit. But again, as I said, a concrete surface as well. It's a bit bumpy here at this particular racetrack. So if you're not perfect on the entry point and you have to get a lot of wheel to get the turn to where you want to be on the exit, you got to be really ginger when applying that throttle.
Joshua Chin does currently hold the fastest lap of 1:16.654. This is something we see pretty consistently, is Joshua Chin holding the fastest laps of the race. And this is, of course, something that we've seen time and time again, but he just has not been able to come out and actually get the win. He's fast. He's got to work on his consistency right now. So Josh Baird currently still in a fight with Liam Quinn, still trying to run him down. It's being a real struggle. You see just how close they come to the barriers, and it's really just, you hold your breath if you see them get that close, because if they're any closer, they'll find themselves destroying their suspension, and it really will not help any of them if that's what they end up doing. So Baird's still trying to run down Liam Quinn, but it looks like Quinn is beginning to pull away with the position.
Nolan, interesting what you said about Joshua Chin, how he has consistently put down fast lap after fast lap. He does come in 6 points behind Lucas Laville in the championship standings. Robert Grosser with his victory at Zolder back by 38 points in total to his teammate from Vortex Sim Racing. But when you look at actual bonus points, 2 bonus points for Lucas Laville, 8 bonus points for Robert Grosser, 10 bonus points for Joshua Chin. This guy has been racking them up when in pole positions, fast laps, leading races. So 10 full bonus points for him, and again, with a good opportunity to potentially take back the lead here in the championship before we head to New Hampshire in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely, and that's what he wants to try to do right now, is take back the win, because the Ovals have definitely been his domain throughout the course of the season, so that's what he wants to have right now. Right now, the closest battle on course is down for 12th place as you watch Franz Josef Stum trying to reel in Andrew Aitken, and one car has spun around again, and that is the in the number 24 machine. So I think this is the second incident now that Quinn has had, and it looks like he is nosing into the barriers again. We'll get a look back at what's happened here. Is it the case of getting on the throttle too early or too much? It is! Just losing the back and all in the zone. That's a very easy thing to do. The surface is so bumpy, you really have to watch that throttle, and unfortunately just got the better of him. Another battle close on the track right now that's closing in. Robert Grosser and Matt Molnar, they're looking to go at it for third place.
Interesting to see Matt Molnar, as I said, right into the fight here. Good to see.
Hold on,
speed.
Lucas Laville. Lucas Laville has just had a crash, and he's now going to be out of second place. He's actually bent up his back wing. Too much.
Have a look at Lucas Laville. I have on my other camera watching the in-car. I didn't see it when I looked back down. It's a potential issue here for your point leader, Lucas Laville, in the Vortex Sim Racing Machine. Indeed, and there has been contact, and you mentioned it, Nolan. The curbing here, very aggressive. He got too high coming into the curb there, shot the car around. Not able to get it wound up before back into the wall. He remains on the racetrack. I'm watching him here in iRacing as well on the second screen. You can see the damage, though, to the that rear wing on the number 29 machine. And here comes Matt Molinar on the number 5.
This will be crucial here from Laville. He's got a choice now. Does he pit and try to hold on to the position? Sorry, does he pit and lose a lot of these positions? Or does he stay out and try to hold on to it? He's going to try to hold on to it, and here's the thing that might impact that decision here. It's rear wing damage that will hurt his aerodynamics, but Detroit is not really an aerodynamic track because a lot of the corners are in fact slower or 90-degree corners. So a lot of times you don't need a whole lot of aerodynamic help apart from, of course, the first 2 corners. So he might be trying to stay out here and might bring it down to get that car fixed up when the pit window opens for him. He is going to have to still be very, very careful, though, because if that wing bends up anymore, it might end up falling right off. And, of course, that would just be complete disaster for him.
And this is really crucial in the championship. Remember, it's a 13-race program. We're kind of in the middle here, race number 6. The next 2 events, though, are both on the oval, and we can't talk enough about how good Joshua Chin is, how much of a favorite he is anytime we go to one of the Speedway events. New Hampshire, June the 28th, and the summer break, then coming back on August 9th with a race at Kentucky. A couple of races on the ovals. If you see an issue here with Laville, if he's not able to get a solid result in, this could give an opportunity to open the door for Joshua Chin to grab a bit of a lead when we get back to the second half of the season. Chin, of course, dominating right now, 10.1 seconds out. But look at this scrap here. Matt Molinar in the 5 and Robert Grosser in the number 3, starting to close up on the stricken number 29 of Lucas Laville.
That's what Lucas Laville can do, and I'm noticing they are closing in a bunch right in the middle of the sector, actually through a lot of the lower speed corners, and I think that's actually where the downforce is really helping because these cars do generate a massive amount of downforce, and that's what's helping them carry such speeds through these lower speed corners. Laville has lost that upper hand with these cars with that rear wing being bent up as it is, so he's actually suffering a lot through the lower speed corners in terms of mid-speed, in mid-corner speed. He's still getting the jump with them on the exit of the corner because he's that good on the throttle, but he is really going to be struggling, and he's got to be driving like his heart depends on it right now. And you can see Matt Molinar is definitely closing in that gap right now, and he's looking hungry. Might see a move for position here as they draft down the straightaway. Molinar is under half a second away. Will we see a dive bomb up for the hairpin? It wouldn't be the first time we've seen a dive bomb at this hairpin. He makes the look. Not close enough though to actually make the move.
Yeah, not able to get to the inside in this right-hander here. Again, look at the lap times, a 1:16.7 last time by for your leader, Joshua Chin. 1:18.1 for Lucas Laville. The damage, of course, making the car a little less balanced, but he is doing the best he can, but still well off the fast times here. Indeed, Molinar was quicker by about 0.2, as was Robert Grosser. Not that far back, Timo Isanimi as well in the number 43. He's starting to work his way back up into the scrap here, one of the Vortex Sim Racing drivers. So both Grosser and Isanimi, part of Vortex, trying to take advantage right now, I guess, of one of the issues for their teammate, the point leader, Lucas Laville. But Lucas doing a tremendous job. The best he can do, mid to low 1:18s. That is going to be a struggle for him to hold on to that spot. Sooner or later, Matt Molinar is going to have to be aggressive. Coming down, looking to the inside of turn number 3 to the inside, side by side. No, and across the border, right across comes Laville. Pinches down from drivers left to right, holds the spot back. It's got to be only a matter of time, though, Nolan.
Molinar nearly lost the back end. You saw when he hopped over the curves there, that back end shot out and he almost bended himself. And that has allowed Laville some breathing room, but Molinar has got to be really trying to think about how he can reel him back in, because here's a crucial thing. Laville is holding these guys up. They can drive a lot faster than the 1:18s they're setting right now, but he is backing them up more and more. And as he does, drivers like Jos Vandeven and Josh Baer, they're also going to close on in, because both Baer and Vandeven, they are currently faster than Laville on the track as well. So Laville is only holding these drivers up, and it's just causing this field to really bunch up a lot more than what it was at the start of this race. But the thing is, Laville is, of course, the points lead, and Molinar slams the wall. No damage, I think, but his tires are not going to be happy with him after that one. But I think Molinar had just had a very, very lucky escape there.
Well, there's got to be a bit of impatience for him. He had an opportunity to make that move down in turn number 3, but couldn't get it to stick. Now he sees that LaVille's pulled away a bit, and a shout out to LaVille actually putting a couple of decent lap times in to try to see if he can't get a better handle on it now, but back up to a 119 flat. You can see how close Molnar's already getting, within maybe 5 or 6 car lengths. He's got a Vortex driver in front of him. He's got 2 Vortex drivers behind him as well. So right now, Matt Molnar, who currently runs in that 3rd position, would be his best result of the year. Potentially, though, going to P2. We know that there's an issue here for LaVille. Just doesn't have the pace. Molnar, again, trying to be very patient, picking the time, going to work. That's the thing, Nolan. Anybody else, you'd say, hey, listen, just keep putting the pressure on and see if you can't force LaVille into a mistake. But Lucas LaVille's not the kind of guy that's going to make a lot of mistakes. Of course, he made that minor one to have the issue as it is, but I just can't see him making another mistake here. Molnar, though, having another look to the inside. Trying to fill the mirrors here right now. He's got to watch out because Robert Grosser could change things here as well. If Grosser's able to get by, may give his teammate a little bit of breathing room.
I think that's what Molnar's concerned about right now, is trying to make sure that the 2 Vortex cars behind him cannot cross in front and start checking him up as well. And here's the thing, is that Lucas LaVille, he is the points leader, so he is not going to want to yield. Usually if you have damage like that, you would see drivers giving up positions more easily, but he's right now fighting for the points lead. Molnar is not, so LaVille is right now trying to fight with everything he has because he knows that if he gives it up, he is going to be losing out on a position, and that's one thing that he cannot afford right now. Molnar with a massive run up the hill. Grosser closes in big from behind, and all of a sudden this top 3 are beginning to slowly pull away from Timo Isinimi behind him. So this is really turning out to be a very interesting fight here because you got LaVille, who's just struggling to hold on to whatever he can right now. You got Molnar on a fresh car behind, and LaVille is not going to want to give him an inch of room. He's also not going to want to come down and pit until that pit window comes along. But he knows LaVille knows he's going to lose a lot of spots on that pit stop because he's going to have to wait for the damage to be fixed. So he's trying to keep whatever he can right now to make sure that he doesn't lose as much as he will when he goes in to take his pit stop.
Yeah, that's just it. Right now, he is fighting for his life, as you said, trying to score as much points as possible here after that issue and potentially see how the race unfolds. We know that Joshua Chin has made mistakes before. Here comes Molnar again, though. Let's keep back on that. But the fact that the Chin has made mistakes, I think that LaVille's trying to hold on as much as he can to see how this storyline would play out. Indeed, if a Chin has an issue, that will kind of change things up a bit. But right now, LaVille trying to see if he at least can't make his way to that scheduled pit stop. Grosser starting to put some pressure here on Molnar as well. This is the run through 1 and 2. Grosser close enough potentially to make a run. Let's see what he gets coming out of the corner, out of turn number 3. Grosser getting into the slipstream here as they work their way down into 3 out of turn number 2. Is Grosser close enough? He is not. Has a look to the inside, thinks about it, but not enough. Molnar and the Archer Brothers esports machine still P3. Pressure putting back on LaVille.
LaVille did go defensive in that corner, was covering the inside line. Really didn't need to. Molnar was not going to be close enough to realistically have a look, and it's only cost him some more time. Tank slapper for LaVille through the apex. It has kept it secure. Really rarely do you see these kinds of storylines developing as they do so early on. Here goes Molnar now, looking to the outside as LaVille going to be on the brakes, side by side. You don't see passes here too often. Squeezes Molnar to the outside, and Molnar completing the pass around the outside. He's got the line. Contact is made. LaVille, though, keeping it out of the barriers, and that's finally a position made for Matt Molnar. Now the question is, what is LaVille going to do with 2 of his teammates behind? And guess what? Jos Vanderven and Timo Isinimi, they're right back in the hunt.
Yeah, that was a fantastic pass. Went around the outside, coming down into turn number 7. Of course, holding the outside, as you said, not a lot of passes on the outside there, normally on the inside. I believe, LaVille's going to come to the inside to let everybody by. He did the best he could. He'll let his teammates go on through and try to tuck back in. I think that Isinimi's going to get through as well, and potentially Vanderven. Good effort there from Lucas LaVille. Did everything he could with the damaged rear wing on his Delora, and again, kind of seeding the way through. Drivers finding their way by, and I expect you'll see Matt Molnar pulling away pretty aggressively here. Right now, though, LaVille's going to watch out that Johnny Garrett doesn't get too aggressive from behind him. You don't want to have a major mistake here to take you out of the race. We know that when the pit stop does come, he will lose a bit of time getting that rear wing replaced on the machine, but right now, Lucas LaVille is falling back to the 6th position. Point leader coming in. Joshua Chin out front by a staggering 22.5 seconds. Nolan, all the scrapping, all the effort that Molnar had to do to try to find a way by LaVille, he finds himself almost 23 seconds behind Joshua Chin.
Absolutely, and I think this really has brought, team strategies into the light in full. You saw Laville was holding out Molnar, hoping that his teammates would get through and check him up even further. But as soon as Molnar got through, Laville pulled right to the side to let his teammates through so they could continue to battle. So that really shows that they were working on a team strategy there, trying to hold up Molnar as much as they could, and it worked. It really worked to a big degree. Like you said, a 23-second gap up to the leader. That is almost insurmountable right now for Matt Molnar. Joshua Chin, unless he has a big mistake, and we've said this time and time again throughout these races, unless Joshua Chin has a mistake, he is going to have this race all secure. Thing is, though, like we said before, Joshua Chin has not been that good on the road courses this season. He's found himself in the lead several times, has not been able to capitalize on it, though. And he always makes these self-inflicted errors, which put him right back down to where he doesn't need to be throughout the course of the race. And sometimes, because like Zolder, it means he doesn't finish at all. Now, though, this is a track that he's good at. He dominated here last year. He's looking to do the same thing this year.
To Chin's credit, when we talk about the issue in turn number 1 at Zolder, I want to say that almost everybody but Robert Groscher up front had trouble in turn number 1. That corner with the particular track itself, the drivers were rolling so much speed into that corner. We saw a lot of guys with exit oversteer looping it around, either getting on the curbing and looping it around, whatever it may be. So he wasn't the only driver that made a mistake there. That was kind of a part of that racetrack that caught a lot of drivers out. Otherwise, Chin has been unbelievably fast, as you said, dominated here last year, and with the lead he has now, 24.116 seconds, he's going to be able to be really easy on the throttle. You can see him here on that number 93 machine. Strong lead right now, closing up a little bit here on Liam Quinn, his Team Chimera teammates. I'm sure Quinn will let him by cleanly once they get close. As we know, Quinn's had a couple of issues here, but Joshua Chin in the 93, impressive here already. And again, Quinn's going to roll to the inside of the racetrack as they work their way out of turn number 6 down to turn number 7. Get an opportunity to tuck in behind his teammate who works his way through the kink here over to 7. So again, pretty solid run for Joshua Chin early in the race though, Noel. Let's not jump to conclusions. 16 laps into a 69-lap race here on Belle Isle. A lot of laps still to get put in, a lot of miles still to cover before we start saying that this is a race for Joshua Chin. But just based on history, we know he is in a very solid place to grab another win. It would be his 3rd of the year.
Andrew Aiken has had a big off at turn 1, actually. He got a big bite of oversteer on the entry, sitting in the pit lane now. I don't know how long he's been there for, but he pounded the outside barrier inside of turn number 2, and that caused him to tow. Looked like almost might have broken the suspension. He brought it down to the pits and, of course, lost out significantly. This was back on Andrew Aiken's lap 13, so not quite sure if we'll be able to get a replay of that, but it was certainly one of the biggest incidents we've had all day. But like you said, Joshua Chin has been doing an absolutely phenomenal run. He's been having a really good go with things, very easy go with things. No doubt that battle between Lucas Laville and Matt Molnar has helped Joshua Chin pull away. And, like I said, he's been having such a good run over the course of this race, and I'm really hoping for him that he can get himself another win here today, because at this point, he really needs one after having so much misfortune in these road courses.
And this is the thing right now as we dial things. We know how much effort and the dedication that Joshua Chin puts into this program here in the Classic IndyCar Series, always trying to do the absolute best, run 100%, put the lap time you need in to come up with the setup for Team Chimera. He's at a place right now, he's made some mistakes, as we said, in the 3 road course races, but in the ovals, he's been unbelievably good. Only really the 1 DNF at Zolder, even with the issues he had at both Sebring and at Brands Hatch, still able to bring good points home. That's why he's only 6 points back now of Lucas Laville. If he's able to win here, as I had said earlier, and I want to make sure that we keep keying on this, from here we go to New Hampshire, the summer break, and then come back at Kentucky Speedway, a couple of ovals back-to-back. We know he'll have the shortest odds, the best odds to potentially score a victory. This could be a 3-race run midway through the season that really would change the storyline of the championship. And I guarantee you both Robert Groscher and Lucas Laville and any other driver with thoughts and plans on potentially running for the championship do not want to see Joshua Chin get in a bit of a run here now. But here's a great battle. A little bit of mistake through turn number 1 for Matt Molnar. Grosser closing right back up. Molnar knew it. He's on the full defensive, weaving down between turns 2 and 3. Grosser closing right up behind him. Just a little mistake through turn number 1. Grosser getting ready to capitalize.
Like I said, every mistake at this racetrack will be costly, and there you see Molnar lost a lot of time, and he was weaving all over the place trying to break the draft from Robert Groscher behind. Groscher, of course, coming away with his first win of his 2020 campaign here last week, or 2 weeks ago at Zolder. And right now, trying to maybe not go for a win, but definitely trying to go for one more position. Right now, he's secure in the podium, and he's got a teammate right behind him as well, Timo Isunimi, that he knows that if he needs to let him through, he can definitely do so. Isunimi might be looking to see what could happen up here in front with Matt Molnar and see if Grosjean can go up. We might see Grosjean backing Molnar up into Isunimi so they can get yet another position. That's why with Lucas Laville, after all, wouldn't be surprised. It wouldn't surprise me if we saw this happen again, because it worked once. Why can't it work again?
Lucas Laville currently in pit lane right now, watching a long extended stop to repair the damage that he made after that contact with the wall, as you had mentioned, Nolan. He is still in pit lane right now. The drivers have come back around already. He has lost a lap here to the leader. So a very long extended pit stop to repair for that machine of Lucas Laville, your point leader coming in. Of course, a winner at both Sebring and at Brands Hatch earlier this year. So Joshua Chin has the issue at Zolder just a couple of weeks ago, the DNF, and now an issue for the point leader here as well for Lucas Laville. So no one able to take the championship and kind of run away with it at this point here. Battle continuing though. Great scrap, I think, Nolan, here for P2. Laville finally back out onto the racetrack. Almost a full lap and a half he's lost. In fact, I don't think he's gone 2 laps down, just a single lap down right now. But Matt Molnar, excellent run for the Archer Brothers esports team, running in that second spot. What a great result this would be for Matt, the Canadian driver, looking very strong here, holding off a veteran, a driver that has had 68 starts. This is the 68th start for Robert Grosser, 3-time champion, 6 victories to his credit here in the Classic IndyCar Series, and Matt Molnar holding them off here for P2.
Yes, indeed. So the veteran versus Mr. Molnar, and the question is, can the 3-time champ find a way through? And he is still going to be working, and he's still going to be trying to find every little mistake that Molnar makes to try to capitalize on it. One thing I'm noticing is that Molnar does take a very late apex in turn 2 very consistently. I think that is where Grosser is gaining some time on him, but it's only that little section. Apart from that, Grosser really has to use the slipstream to close it in, because Molnar is just being able to continuously, start to pull away. And we are approaching now. We are now on lap number 20, so drivers have been out here for doing 20 laps now. We're not surprised if we started to see pit stops coming up here really, really soon. We already know that Lucas Laville came down. The question is, when will the rest of the field follow?
Yeah, Laville coming in early, obviously the damage was enough that he figured he wasn't going to be able to close back up on anybody in front of him, had enough of a gap behind. Come and make that pit stop to see how long it was going to be. And indeed, as I said, I watched the majority of that stop, and he was sitting there a painstakingly amount of time. I'm sure he was agonizing in the cockpit, just wishing he'd get back out on the track. You never know how bad a mistake's going to be till you come in, and it was a long one for him to be able to get back out. He currently runs in the 14th position. Not a deep field here in terms of numbers for this event at Belle Isle, so the result won't be quite as catastrophic as the result for Joshua Chin at Zolder a couple of weeks ago. We'll see where Laville is able to work his way back forward, but again, pit stop should be coming pretty soon. A decent little advantage right now coming into turn 1 and 2 for Matt Molnar as he shoots across turn number 2. Probably 3 or 4 car lengths, and he's been very impressive overall with his lap times. A 1:17.5 his best, 1:17.9 last time by, was a 1:17.7 the lap before. So putting lap times somewhere within about 2 to 3 to 4 tenths of a second. A little bit of an issue coming through turn number 7 there. Touched the outside wheels into the gravel, or into the dirt. You see that flying up, working his way back out here again. And again, Matt Molnar holding off one of the veteran drivers, Robert Grosser. Molnar second, Grosser third, Isanimi in fourth, and Johnny Garrett 5 seconds back in fifth.
Absolutely. So, well, one driver that has come down to stop again is Luka Elektrovic. He's a lap down and has come in for his stop. So he's already back out onto the racing service. So it was definitely a scheduled stop. So pit window is, of course, very much open right now. Looks like the pit road delta will be about 32 seconds thereabouts. So drivers, when they come down, they will lose a significant amount of time, as Grosser's still trying to find some way, somehow, to reel in Matt Molnar. I mean, this is a battle that has really been prominent all throughout the start of this race, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be one of those battles that we're going to be seeing come in right through, if not to the checkered flag, then at least to the first fuel window, because Molnar has just not been able to break away. Now they're catching Donald McBride. How will they handle lap traffic? This is going to be crucial.
Indeed, the key for Molnar is he going to be able to find his way by cleaning. Now McBride not that much far forward. One of the teammates of Joshua Chin with Camara. And again, Molnar will need to handle this absolutely perfectly because the veteran Grosser will be able to take full advantage if there's a minor mistake happening here. Looking at the field a bit, we have some time here, Noel, before we get to it. A couple of drivers out early here. Josh Baird coming in 6th place in points with Iconic Motorsports out early. He is now 11 laps down, so done early for Josh Baird. He's going to end up 16th. And Jamie Wilson, first driver out of this race right at the very start. Wilson came in 4th in points, so a crucial DNF for Jamie Wilson coming off the heels of that DNF for his teammate Joshua Chin at Zolder. So the Team Chimera guys have not had the best couple of weeks here. 2 of the championship contenders with issues. Luckily right now, though, as we have said, it's a recovery for Joshua Chin. And nice for Niall McBride there, Noel, to pull over to allow Matt Molnar and Robert Grosser to clean on through.
Absolutely. So the gap now down to less than a quarter of a second. If there was ever a time when Grosser wanted to have a look up the inside, now would be the time to do it. But Molnar pulls a bit of a gap, 0.3 of a second now. Grosser had a look, but he's having to shuffle back in line. Should note as well here that Joshua Chin has almost an entire pit stop length over the entire field. So he might be able to come into the pits and not even lose the lead. That is massive for him.
Yeah, 31.3 seconds for Joshua Chin. His fast lap, the last lap. I was going to say he can probably be out there right now kind of cruising around a little bit. No, he turns the fast lap a 1:16.373 on that last lap. You're going to, of course, car's getting a lot lighter, fuel going away, so we'll get some good speed, some good pace here later on. Excellent run for Joshua Chin right now. And if you had a question, Nolan, if he's just out there cruising around, trying to make sure he gets this win, trying not to make that mistake, that little mistake that kind of nagged him a little bit at a couple of the other races. No, Joshua Chin on the razor's edge, pushing as hard as he can, fastest driver on the racetrack right now.
Should know that is on 24-lap old tires as well. So what is he going to be able to do when he gets back on the fresh rubber? That's going to be what I'm going to be very, very curious about. He already beat his last track record here by a quarter of a second in qualifying. And, of course, he's looking to set a new best race lap time as well right now, which will definitely be very big for him as well, assuming he can be able to work his way out there. And I think the reason why Chin is pushing so hard right now is because he's trying to make sure that if he does make a mistake, he's got as much of a buffer as possible, so he's not going to lose too much time if that mistake comes. Not saying it will, but based on how the trend has gone throughout the course of the season, it almost wouldn't surprise me. But right now, of course, he's having a very good run out there and has so far been incident-free.
Again, we saw the Niall McBride going down that lap, so I want to say once we've cycled through the pit stop here, he's probably lapped at least the top 12 driver, up to the 12th driver at this point here. So again, Chin doing everything he needs to do. But what a run here for Matt Molnar. A lot of TV time for Matt here in that number 5 machine for Archer Brothers Esports, because running against the veteran drivers here, he was able to make the move and get by the injured machine of Lucas Laville. He's been able to hold back Zolder winner Robert Grosser here as well, P2 position. And the thing about Matt Molnar, when you're P2, you never know what's going to happen to your leader up front. Now, we're expecting to see no mistakes on Joshua Chin today, but if indeed one happens, and as you said from the very get-go, Nolan, a mistake here could be catastrophic. It's not that you make a mistake and spin the car and lose some time. You make a major mistake and damage some of your race car, you can find yourself on the sideline. So Molnar running P2. This would be his best career result of the year here, but a good opportunity as well to position himself for a race win should anything happen to Joshua Chin.
Johnny Garrett has found himself now in the pit lane. This was a scheduled stop for the 68 machine. Lost a top 5 spot in him because of that, so we'll have to keep an eye on where he's going to come out. But right now, the battle's really shrunk down to only 2 cars here. It's now Grosser versus Molnar, as Timo Isunimi has really fallen off the pace from the start of this race. And, well, there still is a lot of time for Isunimi to work his way out there. There's also a lot of time for Grosser to try to find his way past Molnar. I think this battle might come down to pit strategy. It would not be the first time that we've seen pit strategy definitely be a deciding factor in one of these races. So that is right now what Grosser might be looking to, clips the curbs just a little bit and got the car just a tiny bit unsettled, but he is he's definitely looking good right now. And now one more other notable thing, Chin now has over an entire pit stop length over the entire field. So right now, Joshua Chin can come down to the pit lane and he will not even lose the race lead, which is absolutely massive for him you know you're doing something right when you can come down to the pits, get a full service done, and not even lose a single spot. You don't see that too often in this series.
Yeah, unbelievable performance by Joshua Chen, and it's not like we should be really surprised. Of course, prepping the race notes, Nolan, before this event, we knew how much of a dominant run he had last year, so we expected that he was going to be able to come here and put a good one in. Did so in qualifying, put the car on the pole, got the bonus points there, and now is essentially running away to what could be a dominant afternoon here at Belle Isle. Still a long way to go. We're not even to the halfway point, 26 laps down of what will be a 69-lap race here in Michigan. And keying here on one of the Vortex drivers, that's Robert Grosser. That's the gap between he and second place running Matt Molnar. Pit stops could be interesting. It's one of the things we've kind of watched throughout the season so far. We've seen drivers running potentially in that chase position, trying to save as much fuel as possible. A little bit of a trouble there for Molnar coming through the infield section, the fountain section of the racetrack through 8, 9, 10. Just a little bit of exit oversteer coming out of turn number 8. Allows Grosser to close up another spot. But again, these two drivers, and Nolan, we've seen that. We've seen the driver maybe running in that, that challenge spot, saving a bit more fuel. I don't think Detroit's a place you can save a ton of fuel based on running second. But if you're a little easier on that throttle and can save that one more lap, there is the opportunity to potentially leapfrog over the driver you're racing in the pit lane, not actually on the racetrack.
Oh! Timo Isinimi has just binned it in turn 1 and 2, lost it all on his own at the exit of the corner. Just ran a bit wide, got a tank slapper going right at the apex, ran wide, hooked the curbs, and that sent him right around, locked the brakes up. Replay is now up on the screen as, take a look here, just loses the back end and slams into the barrier. That is costly for him as his front nose cone is missing. If there's ever time to take a pit stop, I think now would be the time to do it. Should note as well, Joshua Chin has set another fastest lap, a 1:16.326 now. So Chin, still the fastest man on the track and certainly still pushing.
Yeah, Isinimi did not hit the entry to turn number 1. Missed it completely. 4 or 5 feet. Ended up being way wide coming out of turn number 1. Had to get a lot of wheel into the car to be able to get the thing to turn and get back on the throttle and just looped it right around. He didn't have the car in a position to take a set yet when he came back through that corner, and it immediately just started to rotate on him. And again, at that point, he was kind of, I think, probably just a passenger. He was not even close to trying to get the car back to position to get around turn number 2. Looped it around and backed it into the wall. He continues, I believe, to still run, was able to get going again. I think he's still P5. We'll look when the live timing updates. But that's going to kind of clean up this battle here for second, third. There will be no driver for fourth. Yeah, Isinimi has dropped to 5th. Josh Vander been able to get through for P4. So Isinimi was there kind of being the spectator watching the battle between first and second, Molnar and Grosser, which we're keen on here once again. That opens up the opportunity. Even though Isinimi was a Vortex driver, Grosser's teammate, that's going to allow Robert to put his entire focus on trying to find a way by Matt Molnar now. Even still, a third-place finish would not be the worst thing right now for Grosser as he continues to run in the top 3 in points, Nolan, especially considering the fact that Jamie Wilson, who was the closest driver, just 2 points behind Grosser coming in, already a DNF.
And look at Robert Grosser's times. They are consistently faster than Molnar's. Gained 0.2 on lap 25, another 10 on the 26, over a quarter of a second on lap 27, now rounded lap 28. Grosser is still closing. Isinimi is just now exiting the pits. Of course, he had to come down realistically to get a front nose change, or he just would have had no front end grip in that car and would have just found himself understeering everywhere he went. But now, Molnar and Grosser are still getting closer, and they're still staying out there. We're now crossing them to lap 29. We've seen pit strategies made early. It seems like the pit window has to be opening up pretty darn soon here, though a couple drivers did like to come down early with potentially shorter stops. This has really been a good battle, and I'll tell you what, another good battle that's on the track right now is, of course, Andrew De Sanders and Randy Shoemake. That's a battle for 10th right now. It's about the same gap right now as Matt Molnar is to Robert Grosser, and this is, of course, another battle where Sanders has had a pit lane start. He's been working his way out through the field here. Now, he's in place for a top 10.
One of the things I'm watching to see what Lucas LaVille can do as well, trying to work his way back forward. Randy Shoemake, watching him on the racetrack here, working themselves through and into the fountain side of the racetrack, turn 7 through turn 8 right now, over to turn number 9. Randy Shoemake having a pretty good run, as you said, 11th place. Now McBride in 13th further back, and Andrew Adair Saunders sliding through there as well. Back to the battle here for second and third. Again, that's the gap between Matt Molnar and Robert Grosser. No one really. It's never been more than maybe a half a second. Normally, just 2 or 3 car lengths. At this point here, probably about 3 or 4. Grosser knowing there's still a long way to go. We still have 39 laps remaining.
Joshua Chin, another fastest lap. This time it's in the 2s, a 1:16.229. How he's finding these times on tires that are just getting older and older, I have no idea. It's like the tires are getting older and he's somehow getting faster as time goes on. I don't quite understand it, but I guess we're going to run with that one. So Joshua Chin still having the time of his life out there in front as, right now, this battle for second, the only battle on the course.
Yeah, you wonder about Joshua Chin. This is one of those races where he has not put a wheel wrong, as you said. His best lap of 1:16.2, still about 0.4 off of his fastest race lap from 2019. I believe he laid down a 1:15.8 in his dominant win last year. 1:16.5, a full second faster than Matt Molnar, so he's just blowing everybody out of the water right now. He's lapped his way up to, I believe, the 5th or 6th place car at this point here, so Joshua Chin laying an absolute beating on the field right now. 39 seconds. To be honest, there's a potential that he could lap the entire field, Nolan. We're not even to the halfway point yet, which would be lap number 34, lap 30. No, we're past. No, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we still got a couple laps to get to the halfway point. Lap 34, 35. He could potentially lap the entire field, and that's just not something we see here in the Classic IndyCar Series because there's so many unbelievably talented drivers, and I don't think that any of the races we've done this year we've had somebody shown this much dominance. Joshua Chin, very motivated after that issue from Zolder.
Luka Lekcevic has just had himself a spin in the middle of the fountain section. It was another one of those cases where you just get thrown out too early, right when there's a bump in the road. Gave a little bit of a kiss to the concrete barriers. So apart from that, though, he did get himself rolling, and he's all fine and dandy now. You see right now, Lekcevic still letting drivers through as this is, of course, just after this incident happened, a bit obstructed by the concrete barriers, of course, and I'll tell you what, the fountain section is one of the most difficult places on the racetrack, and it is so bumpy in there, and this is one of those problems with low gears. The cars do have to spin a lot more. You saw it just went right over the transition there where concrete kind of shifts a little bit in pavement, and that is where he went around, and now drivers still running good out front, and you can see the battle for second place still rounding through, cutting their way through some more lap traffic. Those Randy Shoemake, they just made their way by, so it still has been a very good run, and they're still staying out on the track for nearly half the race. At this point, it looks like they're trying to make this race a one-stopper.
Yeah, I believe so. It will be a one-stop race for all these drivers. Chin, Molnar, Grosser have not yet made the run to pit lane. I like a racetrack like this. I know it's not a race where we've got 6, 7 drivers in a lead pack battling back and forth, and those are great. Sometimes that's a fantastic a race to watch, right? When everybody's in a big group, especially on a speedway race. But a track like this that is so unbelievably challenging, I find it to be very impressive, the drivers that are able to do it. In the limited amount of racing I've done on the iRacing platform myself during this COVID-19 shutdown, for me, being able to understand how to actually drive these cars, especially the higher horsepower cars like this one here. I drove the IL05 a number of times to get a feel for it while I've been announcing here with Owen for the Classic IndyCar Series. And not an easy car to drive, and this particular facility is a tough one to get right. So the drivers who look good here, Matt Molnar and Robert Grosser, man, super impressed with what they've been able to do. But then you look at Joshua Chin, and Nolan, the guy's in another league. 41 seconds his lead at this point here. No pressure from behind, picking his way through lap traffic. Pick him up a little more further down in the race here, but this guy is just absolutely putting on a show.
Indeed he has. It has been a very, very strong run for a lot of these drivers, and all of a sudden, here we go. Matt Molnar making the pit call on lap 33, and this is going to be really good here. While he's making that pit stop, though, let's take a bit of an onboard lap here for Robert Grosser. Have yourselves a listen as we go to RaceSpot TV Fan Immersion. was a lap on board the Detroit Belle Isle Street Circuit with right now your current points leader, Lucas Laville. Sorry, check that. Robert Groscher, last week's winner of the race, as he's approaching lap traffic. Going to give just a real quick shout out to, of course, the title sponsor for the series, VRCE. It stands for the Virtual Race Car Engineer, which is a software package that includes the Setup Developer Tool and the Virtual Race Car Engineer, which assists both real and virtual race car drivers. The Setup Developer Tool walks the user through a step-by-step process of creating and customizing your very own personalized baseline race setup, and it does so by asking very simple questions about the car type, track type, and behavior of the car on track. The race car engineer will then further fine-tune the setup to get the most out of the car. With it offering whole lap and corner-specific advice, VRCE will do the very best to get the most out of your setup. Both Setup Developer Tool and Virtual Race Car Engineer can be found in the links below. So, approaching the halfway point now, and well, pit strategies are no doubt well underway as Matt Molnar only lost one spot, of course, to Robert Groscher. He's down in third place right now. Still waiting on Mr. Groscher to come down to make his stop.
Yeah, waiting as long as possible to get that stop done. It's just a one-stop race for all our leaders here now, and Groscher with some open racetrack. And again, this is his opportunity, right? Because we know that he has been, I want to say, fast enough to put some pressure on Matt Molnar with opening track here, with an ability to go longer on this fuel stint. A very light car laying down really good lap times. Last time by for Robert Groscher, 117.333. His fast lap 0.8 slower than the fast lap for Joshua Chin. Of course, Chin waiting for him to make his stop. And indeed, here he comes right now. Joshua Chin laying down at 116.5, 0.3 off his best lap at the end of the run. The point leader, or rather the second place driver in the points, and the leader on the racetrack, Joshua Chin, for Team Chimera in the 93 Nolan, making his pit stop.
By the way, before he came to the pits, he set another fastest lap of 116.203 while we were on that fan immersion. So Joshua Chin is just showing the field exactly how it's done here. Now watch this, because I'm willing to bet money here that he is not going to come out in second place, and he will come out in the lead. Shortest stop there for Joshua Chin. He is off and away after a quicker stop there, only in the box for 10.6 seconds off and away. And as predicted, he is still in the race lead, and now he should be good to go to the end.
Key to see what happens here with Robert Groscher. He'll work his way into pit lane now. The winner 2 weeks ago at Zolder in Belgium. Currently third in the championship standings, back by 38 from his teammate Lucas Laville, who now runs all the way down in 14th. So it will be a shakeup here in the points for sure. Here comes Matt Molnar in the number 5 machine. Remember, he has already made his pit stop. Is it enough right now for Robert Groscher? Did he put the laps down he needed to during that open track after he went longer than Matt Molnar did? Will he be able to hold off? Molnar working his way by pit in right now through turn number 14. We'll see if Groscher's able to come back out and grab a hold of that second spot.
And he's done it. Robert Groscher is already off and away in the Thunder down towards turn number 3. So he's done it by some margin. That's Groscher. That's right now on the screen. Molnar just exited turn 1 right behind that second car. So Groscher has cleared him, and by some margin, as it looks like we've had another car take a spin in the middle of the fountain section. And who was that? That was Timo Isunimi again. So this is the second problem now for that number 43 machine. Was another case of just losing the back end and getting on the throttle a bit too aggressively for the corner. I think it might have been, as taking a look down with the replay. Does it clip the curves? And yes, it was. Another low gear, high rev spin for Isunimi is going to see him collecting himself once again into the concrete barriers. And all of a sudden, just like that, no further battles on the racing surface right now.
Yeah, Luka Lejovic made the mistake there as well, going around. That's on board now. We're watching Carson Broadway as he's trying to close up here on Matt Molnar. Matt needs to get the focus back up. He's really working the curbs. He's not able to get back on the throttle quite as quickly. There's Carson Broadway closing up here from P4, the number 35. Molnar, of course, probably reeling a little bit from losing that second spot, but a great in-lap, great pit stop, and a great out-lap for Robert Groscher. And you know, you mentioned that earlier, Nolan, that this could potentially, the way the race was shaking down, could be an opportunity where the actual pit stop itself and the laps that surround the stop could be the difference between finishing second and finishing third, and that indeed has played the way out for Robert Groscher. We'll look at their lap times next time by. We still have a long way to go. 22 laps remaining in the race here in Detroit. So if Molnar has the outright speed, he'll be able to close back in. Otherwise, your prediction came correct in terms of the pit stop being crucial in finding out which drivers would finish where on the podium.
This is a strategy that we've seen kind of come into play a couple times. I think one stop where we saw this was actually a couple weeks ago at Zolder, was when drivers try to stay out a little bit longer because they know that the car that stopped earlier is going to be on fresher tires so they can put down faster laps. But when they're in their pit box, they have to put in less fuel because there's less to go in the race. And usually that ends up working, and it worked for Grosjean last week. It's worked for him again this week. So clearly waiting longer has been the way, because you just cannot make up the time when you're out there on fresh rubber than when you do when you're in the box and just simply taking less fuel. Not to mention, now Grosjean is going to be on the fresher rubber by some margin than Molnar, because Molnar's already been out there for a few laps. So now Grosjean is just ready to pull on the way. Meanwhile, look at Broadway is really closing in that gap. He gained 1.2 seconds on the last lap alone.
Yeah, Carson Broadway put a smoking lap down that last time by, closed up a little more this particular lap, 1:18.2 to Molnar's 1:18.4. So he chopped another 0.2 of a second out. You can see the lap times right there for Molnar versus those of Broadway. For Matt Molnar, I think what's interesting, Nolan, is he missed one race. He's only done 4 races, comes into the event 14th in the points. This is going to be a big one for him to jump in. Now, 14th in points, so rather missing that one race. We probably should have done a little more research to find out which one. I'll try to see if I can't go back, because for Molnar, if it's just the one race, we did have a couple events that were tough to qualify into because, of course, the race at Brands Hatch was tough. I'll look back and try to find out which race he missed. But this is going to be big for him to get him back potentially into the top 10 in the point standings.
Oh, absolutely, and this is, of course, what he really needs here right now. Molnar is, of course, that top 10 position. Of course, well, right now, he has been having himself a kind of a decent run out there. I mean, he's still running out there in 3rd place, which is, definitely better than not. And looking right now, and Matt Molnar, he's currently sitting in 14th place right now. Going into this race, he was just 4 points behind McBride. He was only 1 point behind Tristan Hauser. So this has been a very good run for Molnar. He gained the most spots in last week's race, if you remember. Gained 10 spots from 24th up to 14th, and now he is looking very, very steady, because from him up to 10th place Randy Shoemake, it really only is about 21 points thereabouts, if my math is correct on this one. And right now, Molnar is running out there in the top 3. Meanwhile, 10th place runner Randy Shoemake, he's outside the top 10 in this race, 11th place and 1 lap down.
Indeed, that's what we're talking about. And just looking at the point standings here a little deeper, indeed, the Brands Hatch race was the event that Matt Molnar did not make it into. Otherwise, it's been a pretty solid run for him. A 5th the last race at Zolder, 22nd at Phoenix. He finished in the 10th spot, top 10 finish at Sebring, and a 20th place finish at the opener at back in Fontana earlier in the year. So this has been his best run so far this year to be able to get here to P3, and I think would potentially get him rolling and potentially moving forward into the top 10. So a good run for Matt Molnar coming off a solid run at Zolder, as you said.
It is going to be interesting because we do have a lot of very interesting races that are going to be coming up here. Of course, you're going to be having the next race here coming up at well, that's actually going to end up being at New Hampshire. And then, of course, you can't forget the other races that are going to be coming up as well. And then you can't forget as well, you do, of course, have the Indianapolis race to close off the season. That's going to be pretty big in of itself. But it is going to be a very, very fun race for a lot of these drivers coming up here. And it's going to be an interesting season for sure. I mean, like you said, we're approaching the halfway point of the season. I think we're actually just past the halfway point in this very race. But it's going to be very, very interesting for a lot of these drivers, and no doubt we have a very entertaining close of the season still up the road ahead of us.
Well, I think that we've seen that any driver up front has the fallibility of being able to make a mistake, right? It's not like it's an issue where there's been drivers who have not made even one issue. We've seen mistakes from Lucas Laville. Obviously, today made a mistake. He didn't have the outright pace to win, but a second-place finish would have made things close. A little mistake for him. We've seen minor issues from Grosser. Obviously, we know that Joshua Chin had a couple issues early. The one, of course, at Zolder while leading, coming through turn 1 to spin. That makes you think that anything could happen. Still such a long way to go, and especially anytime we have one of the bigger racetracks. The oval tracks can always have issues. You just can never say that the championship's locked and loaded. There's so many challenging racetracks still coming in the schedule that we can't tell you who's going to be the outright potential champion, but we know for sure there's a handful of guys that have the opportunity to win this title here in 2020.
Absolutely, and I think one driver that's definitely trying to have a go at that right now is Joshua Chin, and looks like one driver has had an issue. Randy Shoemake, speak of the devil, has just slammed the wall just off of the fountain section. His wing and suspension no likely demolished as a result of that. Went in with way too much speed. Looked like he was trying to let by the race leader Joshua Chin, and then just drove straight on. We're going to see that it was in this corner coming up here. Watch his Chin, didn't look to the inside, it looked like she was almost trying to let him through on the exit. And watch this, just well overshot him, creamed that wall.
Yeah, an issue I think where he's just trying to see what he could do to make sure he wasn't going to have an issue with Joshua Chin, the leader, and just kind of overcooked it into the corner. Tough one for Randy Shoemake. That's going to drop him down the order. One of the battles I was watching further back as well was Neil McBride was able to get by Lucas LaVille. That's for 11th and 12th. It was actually for 12th and 13th, but Shoemake's issue has moved Lucas LaVille now back up to the 12th spot, which is very interesting. Look at this scrap here right now for 3rd and 4th. Johnny Garrett has found himself into a battle here with Matt Molnar. Molnar had 2nd for a lot of the time, but now Johnny Garrett putting a ton of pressure on Molnar here. Still a long way to go in this race, and Garrett looking to try to put himself on the podium.
I've had a lot of downtime in the middle of this race, and now we're looking to kick things back up. Will it be a look to the inside on Johnny Garrett? It will be. Garrett's going to go for it. Down the inside, jumps over the curbs, and Molnar able to get the jump on him right on the exit. But here comes Garrett, still trying to fight back, but Molnar's just able to pull that outside line so well, because Garrett always has to let off when he bounces over the curbs to make sure he doesn't shoot that back end out from under him. Has another look there, but can't make anything work. Will he have a run here? Down into the hairpin, entering the fountain section. This is going to be crucial here. Thundered up to the king. Will it be a look for Garrett? Molnar goes big on defensive, then cuts back across the racetrack. Garrett's going to have to wait just a little bit longer to try again.
Yeah, good combination of corners there, and I'll give it up to Matt Molnar. Instead of trying to force the issue, run the defensive line down there into turn number 3, he hung the outside, and by doing that, hung the outside in 3, hung the outside in 4, and kudos as well for Johnny Garrett for not pressing the issue. Once they got to turn number 5, it was Molnar's inside line that allowed him to hold the spot, and a better run at turn number 6, and has held on to the lead. But we definitely have ourselves with a scrap here right now for that final position on the podium as Johnny Garrett in the number 68 machine, putting a lot of pressure on Matt Molnar. Matt with some open racetrack now, pretty good combination through the interior part of the track, that fountain section, turn 7 all the way through to turn number 11, the big sweeping kind of left-hand run before they come back on the straightaway to turn 12. He really nailed those particular apexes and all the exits and has a more comfortable lead once again. But man, it's been an interesting day for Matt Molnar, has it not, Nolan? He was able to, of course, run nicely into 2nd spot and battling now for 3rd. Here's the fight here, as I talked about. Now McBride and Lucas LaVille. Lucas, that rear wing still damaged, so I'm surprised. I don't know that that's additional damage or the same damage as before because he had a long pit stop. Why would that not have been repaired potentially? Maybe it was going to be too long to repair that.
That's what I'm thinking, is maybe it was a bit too long for him to afford to wait, so he had to get back out there, and he's only gone backwards, and now he's lost the top 10 as well. This match was completed just a couple laps ago, and LaVille has definitely been struggling this race. I mean, he was up there in 2nd place. He was almost set to go for another race win, and then he had that little slide, slammed into the barrier with the rear wing, and that's what bent it up, and it just has not been fixed, and he's just been going backwards and backwards. Had a very valiant effort trying to back Matt Molnar up into his teammate Robert Grosjean. That didn't work for him so well. Of course, Grosjean ended up coming out on top of that battle through the pit stop cycle, but right now, LaVille is still trying to find some way out there because he's definitely going to lose the points here. I think that goes without saying. He has lost the points because he was only 6 points off. He's just trying to salvage whatever he can from this race now.
Yeah, that's it. I think the minute he pulled away from backing into the wall, he knew the day was about salvaging as many points as he possibly could, currently running in the 11th spot. Watching some of the gaps here as well, look for Josh Vanderven to go down a lap pretty soon. Joshua Chin closing up on Vanderven at this point here, and that would be a driver in 5th spot. P5 would be where Chin had lapped up to. He's actually not that far. He's only about 18 seconds behind Johnny Garrett and Matt Molnar as well. So just an absolute dominant performance today for the Team Chimera driver, Joshua Chin. Still 24 laps to go. A long way before we're done with this one here. And again, as we said, Detroit, there is an issue around every corner. You have to make sure you hit your entry, apex, and exit for every one of the bends around this particular racetrack. 14 turns, 2.35 miles. It's a tremendous track in Belle Isle in Michigan, just outside of the Motor City here in Detroit. A long time venue, and most recently for the Dual Detroit for the NTT Indycar Series. A very popular stop on the program. And of course, Roger Penske, who's now the owner of IndyCar and the steward of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, kind of the power man behind the event here in Detroit. Race just keeps getting better and better, actually. They've been doing a lot of improvements, Nolan, and the track and the venue itself just keep getting improved season after season.
Absolutely, it does. And I'll tell you one thing that has also improved year after year is the competition in this series alone. And I think proof of this is Lucas Laville, who with a damaged wing is still trying to find some way to try to fight for positions. He's right up now on the gearbox of Niall McBride, who has got to be looking in his mirrors a little bit here, but Laville just cannot find the speed he needs to get up there and really go for a move right now. And it's really hampering his abilities here to try to go for that position. He's continuing to struggle, continuing to try to fight, but I don't know if Laville is ever going to be close enough to really make that move just because of that rear wing damage hampering him through, especially some of these lower speed corners.
Yeah, that's just it, right? The car is not really where it needs to be. In fact, he's going to pull to the inside of the racetrack here now. Is that going to allow Lejovic to cruise through? Indeed, it does. So Lejovic coming through.
6th place.
Oh, that was Broadway coming through, lapping him back. Okay, thank you very much on the update there. So Karsten Broadway in 6th spot getting through. Sportsmanship for sure for Lucas Laville. Great to see him, the opportunity to let these guys get through.
Should note as well that Matt Molnar, in his run with Robert Groscher, he's lost a lot of time. In fact, he lost over half a second on the last lap alone. So Molnar is certainly losing time right now to Robert Groscher, showing that Groscher was the faster driver, just couldn't find the way through. Should also note he is now starting to almost pull away from Johnny Garrett as well, as Garrett has had a few slower laps himself and has not been able to find his way back up there, as Josh Machin still running out there in front, coming up now to 20 laps to go. This race was expected to be about an hour and 40 minutes long. I think the last race we had here was an hour and 36 minutes long. We're coming up now to that 1 hour mark, so only about half an hour left in this race here.
Matt Molnar, we had said, coming off a 5th place finish at Zolder, currently running 3rd now. We saw some action there between he and Johnny Garrett. But again, looking at this driver here, the number 93 of Joshua Chin, came into the event 6 points behind Lucas Laville. And I think everybody in the paddock knew that this was the guy that was going to set the pace. A dominant run in 2019, very close to backing it up here in 2020. This is a track that obviously belongs to Joshua Chin here in the Classic IndyCar Series. And he's starting to close up here now on Josh Vanderven to put him down a lap as well. Vanderven running in that 5th position, has a bit of a gap over Karsten Broadway. Decent solid gap over Karsten Broadway. But again, Nolan, for a guy like Joshua Chin now, he doesn't need to lap Josh Vanderven. But anytime any driver will tell you, when you start kind of backing off to 80% potentially, that's when you make mistakes. At 95%, 98%, you're in your groove. You're pushing hard. You have that little bit extra to go if you need it, but you don't want to get too far out of your groove, because that's when you just kind of lose a bit of concentration, and you can tap a wall here, whether it's putting a wheel off on the exit, tapping a wall at one of the apexes here. You just simply can't let up that much, or you're going to make that mistake.
And I've had my own incidents where I've had those instances where you just back off a little bit because you think you're not going to do a whole lot more in this race. And I've had my own incidents where it's really cost me a lot of time. I think most notable for me was during the Major Series in the Daytona 2.4 hours of Daytona, when I kind of bent my Mercedes GT3 up on some of the speed bumps coming out of the pit lane there. But it really is something that Josh has got to be careful for, and he evidently is not pushing right now, because even on fresh rubber, he never improved on his fastest lap time. In fact, just kind of looking up on him now, it was a 16.588, and his past few laps really have not been, anything really to write home about. It really has been high 16s, low 17s, so he even said it at 118 at one point. So he has not been pushing very, very hard, and he does that because he knows he doesn't need to. He's got a 51-second gap, for crying out loud, on 2nd place. He can probably make another pit stop right now. Another 2 or 3 pit stops. He wouldn't even be close to losing 1st place at this point. But he knows that he just needs to just keep that car in one piece, and he's going to be all safe and sound. Now he's going to have a look up the inside of Jos Vanderven, and all of a sudden, he's lapped up to within the top 5. Already a minute behind your race leader as well as Johnny Garrett in 4th place. And right now, Chin is definitely set to lap all the way up to 4th, maybe even 3rd.
Yeah, let's think about that right now. He is not that far back, maybe 17 seconds behind Matt Molnar, counted at about 26 seconds behind Robert Grosser. It's not like he's going a second quicker. So I got to think he potentially could get Johnny Garrett, maybe even Matt Molnar as well. But again, will he? As you said, he's been able to get by Josh Vanderbrand. Josh, shout out to him, pulling off to the side of the track to allow the leader to come through. No need to battle it out with him at this point here. 117.2 last time by for Chin, a 117 flat for Grosser, 117.5 for Matt Molnar, and a 116.8 for Johnny Garrett. He's trying to close back up as well. He's only 0.8 of a second behind Matt Molnar. We might find ourselves with a battle for third and fourth again. This is Johnny Garrett in the number 68, closing back up on Matt Molnar.
He had that look down from the turn 3 right-hander some time ago and just clattered over the curves, was not able to really capitalize on it, and ended up losing a lot of time to Molnar as a result. And right now, Garrett is back on the hunt, and he's trying to push on in. Matt Molnar's last time was a 117.5. Johnny Garrett's last time, a 116.8. So Garrett is definitely closing in a lot here. He lost a lot of time because he ended up sliding the car a couple times through these slower corners and just lost a lot of time through there because he had to let those tires cool off. But now that they're back down to the optimal racing temperature, he's able to push just that little bit harder and close on in. Meanwhile, just as they exit the fountain section, Joshua Chin is pulling into the fountain section. So he is definitely still closing in. And our producer, Tyler Maxson, has pointed out, at this rate, he might lap the entire field.
We'll see what happens here in terms of one driver just actually heading to pit lane here late in the run. Matt Molnar, was that Johnny Garrett actually into pit lane?
It is.
It is Johnny Garrett coming into pit lane from P4, 50 laps into this, so not exactly sure why, but Garrett coming into pit lane. Figure what happened to him. What do you think? Potential issue on track?
I think it was, and it looks like Matt Molnar. Matt Molnar's had a huge spin here. What's happened here is now going to go to replay now. This was through turn 1, it looks like this happened. All of a sudden, what has happened here? Turn 2 this happened in, as our producer points out, is over the... Oh, no, that is a very easy mistake to make, and that has just sent Molnar's day up in smoke. Not going to be able to contend for a top 10 position in points now, as Johnny Garrett just now passes him by in the pit lane. Oh, my goodness, that has just sent everything up in smoke, and I was just about to mention, Rob, that the reason why Johnny Garrett came down now was because he was 25 laps on a stint compared to the 16 with some others, because he's on a 2-stop strategy for this race. He's not on a 1-stop. He was one of the first drivers to come down actually in that first pit window.
Yeah, it kind of caught us off guard, right? Because some of the veteran drivers like Joshua Chin and Robert Grosser, Luca LaVille, these guys have the ability. They handle the throttle so well that they're able to make sure a 1-stop works. They are all able to do that. A number of drivers on the 2-stopper, one of them being Johnny Garrett, as you said. But talk about this particular racetrack, the character of Belle Isle, where you can just make that minor mistake. And at the very, very front of the broadcast here, I mentioned coming out of turn number 2, there's that rise coming out of the corner, and the car can get super light. You have to have it pointed in the right direction when you're rolling back on the throttle. And I just feel gutted for Matt Molnar. He had such a tremendous run, was up into 3rd spot, really looking to kind of capitalize off that top 5 finish at Zolder to get a podium finish here today in Detroit. A mistake like that's going to drop him now down to 8th position. We'll see how far he falls and when he gets back onto the racetrack here. But Garrett was putting all the pressure on him. In fact, Garrett was actually gone at that point. He had gone to pit lane, so the pressure wasn't even actually real because Garrett had to pit again. And so Molnar, pressured as he was, made the mistake coming out of turn number 2. He has fallen down to 10th in the order right now. And that moves Jos Vanderbrand up into 3rd spot. Johnny Garrett goes to 4th even with the pit stop, and Karsten Broadway finds himself in the top 5.
Well, I don't even think it was a driver error then. I think that was just the characteristic of the track, because you saw in the replay, right out of turn 2, there is a lip there. Thing is, you're still turning when you go over the crest of that little hill. And you saw the back end of the car just started to shoot out the second he got over that crest. And he overcorrected and shot hard to the right. And you and I both know this very well, Rob. When these cars start to get loose, it is very, very hard to save them, especially at those speeds when you're on a downhill slope like that. What do you see this perfectly here for Josh Chin? Look at the lip right there. You can even see it from that camera angle as Joshua Chin went over that. It's a very easy mistake to make, and he made it right there, and it has just cost him the whole race.
Yeah, he's actually out of the race as well. Only, I think, 11 drivers remain on track. Matt Molnar will be 11th in the order potentially. I want to say that Andrew Aiken's still on the racetrack here as well, but Lucas Lavelle has now moved up to 10th. With all the attrition, Lucas Lavelle finds himself up to 10th position, the final driver on the racetrack right now. Joshua Chin, 55.2 seconds the lead. He has lapped everybody except for Robert Grosser. So everybody but the driver in second place has been lapped or been claimed by attrition. So an absolute dominant run here for Joshua Chin with just 16 laps remaining. But man, I'm telling you, Nolan, I'm gutted for Molnar because it was such a great run coming off that tremendous finish at Zolder. He's not going to hurt that much. It's 11th place. It's still going to move him up a couple of positions in the championship standings, but that third place finish, I think, would have put him nicely up in the top 10.
Joshua Chin is still doing about 0.6 a lap faster than Robert Grosser. Now, this is really crucial here. Grosser's last lap was a 1 minute 18.1 second time. Joshua Chin's last lap, a 1:16.2. Look at that, over a second gain on the last lap alone. And this really just showed how dominant Joshua Chin has been. So he's definitely in a very dominant performance. And honestly, I cannot remember the last time that we've seen one of these drivers lap the entire field in this series. Like, I just cannot recall the last time we've seen this happen. And, you know, Joshua Chin, he's doing a fantastic job with it. He's only got one driver to lap now, and then he's lapped the entire field at this point. He really could go for another 2 pit stops, and he would still be in the race lead. I mean, that is absolutely phenomenal for Joshua Chin. This is exactly the race that he needed today.
Hey, interesting look at the drivers who did the one-stop strategy as of so far. Joshua Chin, Robert Grosser, and Jos Vanderben, the only drivers who have stopped just that one time. And unless we see Vanderben come down to potentially into pit lane, I have a feeling that I think he's pretty much the same as well. 20 lap stints so far for Vanderben, 18 lap stints for both Chin and Grosser. So all three of those drivers, a one-stop strategy, definitely the way to go here today. And it's still a 56-point lead for this guy here, Joshua Chin. And can you imagine the difference, the black and white of the emotions on the weekend, Nolan? Of course, in Zolder, very fast, was able to take the lead away from Robert Grosser at one point, and then lost it in turn number 1, looped the car around, and stuck it in the wall. You can just imagine how mad he was at himself when he was behind the wheel. This time, of course, changing his fortunes at Detroit with an opportunity to get a huge race win to get back into the championship.
You saw Andrew Adair Saunders stopped on the side of the road, and this is why, as the number 4 machine coming through turn 1 and then through turn 2, watch this, gets too much of the curves, swings wide and pounds the wall, destroyed the suspension immediately, forced to pull it off to the side of the track and bring it to a stop and tow it back to the pits. All of a sudden, we have another driver joining with the retirements, and now only 9 cars remain on the course, only 2 of them on the lead lap. As we come up to these final laps of this race, let's take just a little bit longer and go for yet another bit of RaceBop TV fan immersion with your race leader, who's led every lap for the drop of the green flag, Joshua Chin. Another lap or 2 on board there with Joshua Chin, your race leader. Coming up now, just 13 laps remaining here in this race of the Classic IndyCar Series at Detroit Belle Isle. It has definitely been an attrition-filled race. Only 9 cars remain on track, only 2 of them on the lead lap. Joshua Chin has lapped all the way up to second place. Robert Groscher, 58 seconds behind the race leader and losing almost a second a lap right now as well. Joshua Chin is looking to go for an absolute masterclass here. He was fastest in practice. He got the pole by almost half a second. He's looking to lap everybody and lead every single lap to win the race as well without a single mistake.
Well, I communicated with Robert Groscher after his win at Zolder, and he knew that Chin would be a dominant factor here. And I think he almost realized they probably seen if they could fight for second place. So if that was indeed the case, Robert's done what he had to do to run here in the second position. But if we fast forward and say potentially that Chin's able to put together the results he needs for the remainder of the season to get this championship, I think we're going to be able to come back here and kind of look at the race at Belle Isle as the absolute turning point. Now, again, like I said, there's still a lot of races to come. We're only just coming to the halfway point of the season here, but with a couple of oval races following this run here at Detroit, man, what a start to a streak this could be for Joshua Chin. You know, you and I have talked about it, Nolan, many times throughout the broadcast here, that he's been the dominant driver on the ovals, winning at Fontana, winning at Phoenix. He's had unbelievable speed. He's got speed everywhere, but unbelievable speed, good pace as well on the road courses, but just hasn't been able to put together a full distance run. He's led races. He's been in the battle for the top three, but just little mistakes, dropping a wheel here, spinning here, whatever it may be, have kind of taken him out of what would have been really good finishes. Zolder being the primary one at DNF just 2 weeks ago. He's still second place in points coming into the race, 6 points behind Lucas LaVille. But man, what a way to start a potential streak here if he's able to finish this thing off. 11 laps to go, Nolan. I'll tell you, Chin looking like an absolute champion here right now.
Absolutely. He's had an absolutely phenomenal day. This is like the one race that he actually needed. Every race he's had in the road course has been so detrimental. And I cannot express this enough, Rob, but if he manages to find a way to crash out here in these final laps, I think it will actually physically hurt me in some way, shape, or form if he manages to crash out here, because he's just had such a good run. The only way he could possibly lose this is if he hasn't crashed bad enough that he has to spend either over a minute taking repairs or it puts him out of the race entirely. Other than that, Robert Groscher is going to have to settle for second place here. No doubt about that one. And Joshua Chin is going to have this race completely sewn up for him. This race has been a one of attrition. I mean, we had 19 cars start the one. Over half the field has crashed out over the course of this race. Some drivers as early as 55 laps ago, back on lap number 4. Now, as you hear the total gap, it's almost a minute of it's actually going to be over a minute now in just a little while here. And these laps are only about a minute and 16 to a minute 17. I mean, Joshua Chin is consistently lapping to the 1 minute 16 second bracket, and Robert Groscher is in the 1 minute 17 bracket. This has been absolutely phenomenal here for Joshua Chin, and not what Groscher wanted to see at all. Look at the gaps here. 0.6 one lap, 1.8 seconds the next lap, another second the lap next. I mean, there's nothing that Joshua Chin has done wrong in this race. It's only been up from him from the drop of the green flag. I mean, if there could be any way to go up from here.
Well, you know, you said there's, you know, it would be his race to lose. He would make a mistake. But I just think he's got such a handle on this particular track. And I think a part of it as well, you know, you got to give it up for Joshua and his abilities with his team at Team Chimera to put together a great setup. They have an unbelievable setup for the oval races, and they work extremely hard to get great setups here for these road courses as well. And I think one of the keys is this particular track. We talked about how bumpy it is. Setup is key. You know, the damper setup is absolutely crucial to be able to get around here with a car that's going to stay balanced in a lot of the different parts of this racetrack. We saw Matt Molnar have the issue coming out of turn number 2, that bumpy part of the racetrack, the rise, a bit of almost a jump, if you will, coming out of turn number 2. It seems like Chin's had zero issues with it whatsoever. His line is perfect. The car is absolutely perfect. And again, as we said, coming off that issue that he had at Zolder, I'm sure this would be just a very satisfying victory. 9 laps still remaining here. Joshua Chin leading by over 61.2 seconds right now. Again, lap times about 1:16.6. So he's less than 15 seconds behind the back of Robert Groscher, the only other driver on the lead lap here.
Yes, indeed. And, you know, this is one thing as well that, like you said, and what we've said time and time again, this is going to be the start of a very great streak here for Joshua Chin, because we got the New Hampshire Oval coming up next. He's really good on the ovals. That's where he's gotten both his wins so far in the season. The only 2 ovals have gone to him. Right after that, we move on to the summer break, and after that, we go to the Kentucky Oval. That's going to be another track where Joshua Chin can look to pull ahead of the standings. Then we get to the circuit Jacques Villeneuve, and this is going to be very, very interesting here for Joshua Chin, is how will he handle the Montreal Formula One circuit, because in a lot of ways that track drives a lot like a street circuit, like this one. There's a lot of tight chicanes, a lot of very tight corners with a couple of long straightaways here or there, but most importantly, it's a very boxed in circuit, very, very little runoff in just about every section of the racetrack, very little room for error. It drives a lot like Detroit in many ways. So how do you think he's going to handle it here? Could we see another domination from him at the Formula One circuit in Montreal?
Yeah, I think that's really good insight, Nolan. We know he's going to be very good at the ovals in New Hampshire and Kentucky. And then you look a little further into the schedule, it does set up for him. The next 3 races look very good if indeed he believes that the track at Montreal, which, as you said, very similar to the one here in Detroit, it's during the year, it's city streets, it's an island circuit as well in the middle of the St. Lawrence and Montreal, and it's a safe temporary circuit. Now, of course, it's F1 worthy, so the track is obviously a lot smoother than the one you have here in Detroit, but there's just similar parts of that racetrack. A lot of the very quick, left-right combinations, a lot of long straightaways, of course, the big casino hairpin. It's a track that could play into Joshua's kind of wheelhouse as well, and that would mean 3 straight races where he would come in as the outright favorite, coming off, of course, the potential win here in Detroit. So mid-season looking pretty good for this guy to fight it out for the championship. But you know what? The interesting thing is Robert Grosser's not giving up at all. Win at Zolder, 3rd in points coming in right behind Joshua, 38 points behind his teammate Lucas Laville, who had that issue early. But key to bring this up right now is we've got, 7 laps to go. Lucas Laville, damage on that race car, we know, but Nolan, through all the attrition we've had, he's back up to 8th position, so minimizing the damage of that potential DNF for him, the crash he had early, he's still P8, so not the worst day in the world for Lucas Laville.
It's certainly not the worst day in the world, and what you can see as we look back to this battle for 3rd, which has split up over a lot of the time, whereas Jos van de Ven, he's up to 3rd place now as a result of Matt Molnar crash now. Johnny Garrett had to take a second stop because Garrett decided to risk it to go for a 2-stop strategy. That didn't work, and look at this, and this is with less than 10 laps to go now. Jos van de Ven gives up 3rd place, goes down in the pit lane. That's going to allow Johnny Garrett back up into 3rd, and where he would have been if he had overtaken Molnar on the track. So, it's important to note here as well that van de Ven was 29 laps on the stint. He was also on a 2-stop strategy. He tried to stretch it and has now realized he was not able to make it. That was 7 laps longer than anybody else running down the track right now. Joshua Chin is at 28 laps right now, but this could be crucial here. If van de Ven has to come down 29 laps on a stint, Joshua Chin's 28 laps on his stint. Do you reckon maybe we could see one more splash and dash of fuel? Not like it would matter a whole lot, but you never know with races like this.
I don't know, because Grosser waited to well past the halfway point. Wasn't he around 35 or 36 laps when he came in? I find that really interesting that potentially only 2 drivers will have done a one-stop strategy, because right now the only guys that have only stopped once are the 2 guys in P1 and P2, Joshua Chin and Robert Grosser. Now the key thing is really in terms of pit lane time anyways, Chin he could stop twice still if he wants right now and still not lose the lead to Robert Grosser. Grosser 31.9 seconds ahead of Johnny Garrett. He could potentially come in and out in front of Johnny Garrett, and Garrett's done 2 stops. So we'll see how it all plays out here. I think that maybe Grosser's going to be able to go to the end. I think Chin will be able to as well. We may see them come in, but otherwise, with just the 5 laps to go, it looks to me like 1st and 2nd pretty much locked and loaded.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been a very good run for Josh Chin. We said that time and time again. I'm starting to sound like a broken record at this point from all this stuff. But, this has certainly been exactly what has, happened here. And like you said, even with a 2 stops, even with another 2 pit stops, 1 lap after the other, Chin would still be in the lead by over 20 seconds, which is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, as of right now, right now, presently, he's only about 12 seconds away from lapping Robert Grosser. I don't think he's going to be able to lap Robert Grosser at this time because Grosser is currently managing to hold on and only losing on a second lap, and right now he's only got 5 laps to go, Joshua Chin. So I don't think he's going to lap Robert Grosser, but still, he really has put the field in their place here today. I mean, there's no better way to come back from a curse of losing road course races because of your own mistakes than to come back and almost lap the entire field and lead every lap, get the pole by almost half a second, and just dominate the thing.
You know, obviously he's talking a lot about both Joshua Chin and Robert Grosser throughout the day. We had a lot of focus on Matt Molnar, but I think I want to put a little bit of focus here with 4 laps to go on Johnny Garrett. Here's an independent driver, not part of one of the bigger teams that work on setups together. Johnny Garrett's an independent. Tremendous run to the season so far for Garrett. He came into the championship battle here, 9th in points, 3 top 10s at Brands Hatch, Phoenix, and Zolder, all able to finish inside the top 10. Now running 3rd, it would be his best finish of the year here in P3. There's an opportunity for him to jump over top of a couple of guys here. Liam Quinn running in 6 spots, so there's a really good opportunity for him. He's only 1 point behind Liam Quinn. He's about 19 points behind Karsten Brado. He's right behind him. But then Josh Baird's out of the race as well. Andrew Wood had to sit on the sidelines for, I believe, accumulating too many penalty points. So there's really an opportunity for Johnny Garrett, the independent driver, with his 4th top 10 finish of the year to jump his way up into the top, maybe let's say top 6 or 7 in the points. I think a tremendous run. We're not talking about Team Chimera or Vortex Sim Racing, you know, the 2 primary hot topic teams here in the Classic IndyCar Series. Here's an independent driver getting ready to stand on the podium here in Detroit. What a great story for today's race.
And look at that, fastest lap for Joshua Chin, a 16 dead. So Joshua Chin is on the hunt. He's trying to break into the 115 range now, so he is still pushing with just 4 laps left to go. You know, the last time that, the most recent time I've seen a driver almost lap the entire field was actually during the Club Sports Summer Series. Keep in mind, though, that was a 6-hour endurance race. This has been an hour-and-a-half IndyCar race. You do not see it. Like, this doesn't happen in these sorts of races. You don't see the leader almost lapping the entire field at a race like this. But look at this. I mean, he's been doing an absolutely phenomenal job, and he's been doing, you know, nonstop, just had an absolute blast. And I can tell you right now, he's probably having a very fun time out there as he's still trying to just barely crack that 1 minute 15 range.
Well, I guarantee he's feeling better than he was 2 weeks ago at the end of Zolder, because he did not stay in the lobby very much after that one. He was not happy with the mistake that he made at Zolder, again, trying to win this championship. You get a couple of victories, at the start of the season on the ovals. You have issues in the road courses. For a guy like Joshua Chin, who prides himself on being 100% excellent anytime he runs anywhere, to have those minor mistakes, any driver will tell you that, even not just Joshua. You make a mistake and take yourself out of the lead, and you are going to be absolutely gutted for yourself. On pit lane here, potentially after an issue. Who is that? Is that Liam Quinn potentially, Nolan, in the number 24?
It is Liam Quinn, and what's happened here to the other Chimera driver? Oh, clipped the wall and then rebounded right into the opposite barrier. And hit it one more time just for good measure, I suppose. And, finishing off both the left and right suspensions at the same time. So as if you needed one more driver to fall out of attrition because of this one. 8 drivers now are set to finish this race. And, this has been, I will say, this hasn't been the most entertaining race based on things that we've seen. But it is really good, though, to still see, Joshua Chin running out there in the lead and finally breaking the curse that has plagued him all season long when it comes to these road course races. He's finally going to be able to take himself a win. At this time, it is going to be mistake 3. Just 2 laps to go now for Joshua Chin.
Well, listen to the storyline here. This is where it becomes interesting. Liam Quinn, of course, teammates of Joshua Chin with Team Chimera. That issue with him getting into the wall is going to push Lucas Laville now up into 7th. So Laville getting gifted a couple of more points here. 8th place was probably the best he was going to happen here. He's 2 laps down right now. He's 10 seconds behind now McBride, so he's not even going to be able to close up on that Chimera driver. But the little mistake for Liam Quinn added a couple extra points onto the tally for Lucas Laville, even with that issue early on. So when we get down to the end of this championship, Laville could look back and say, hey, you know what? I could have finished 14th there after my DNF. Everybody around me, reckon like they were, has moved him up into the 7th position now. So Lucas Laville, even with the issue, potentially with a top 7 finish.
So yes, potential top 7 finish for Lucas Laville still will not be enough, though, to keep Joshua Chin at bay as he's trying to retake that points, and he is definitely going to do so with great pleasure as Well, he's coming up now to the white flag and is going to take it this time by. So we are set for the final about mile and a half or so of this racetrack. And I'll tell you what, it has been a very good run here for Chin. You know, he's having an absolutely stellar day. No doubt this is exactly what he's hoping to see, and he is going to have absolutely no complaints about this one.
Final lap on the racetrack, we believe, here for Joshua Chin. And again, we talked about this. The biggest part of this win is potentially getting some confidence back at the start of knowing what could be an impressive run for him, because we go here to New Hampshire, which is going to be big. We have the summer break, come back for Kentucky. He's able to come back with another event that we know he's going to be strong on at the Oval. And, of course, then to the track in Montreal, which is very similar to the one here in Detroit. But this is the final circuit for this guy here, Joshua Chin. Nolan, I'll give it to you, man. What a run it has been for the Team Camara driver, looking to take back the championship lead.
Through the ever-tricky fountain section for the... Oh, my goodness! And that just about ended his day. Talk about giving the guy a heart attack. If that ended there, that would have been the ultimate heartbreaker. But he manages to keep it together, doing almost a little bit of showboat there, I want to say, as now... Final few corners of the racetrack, almost threw it all the way in the final half of a lap. But now, though, the curse has been broken. Joshua Chin to victory lane here in Detroit.
Unbelievable final lap. I was trying to grab a sip of water and no one almost spit it up over my computer. We were on board. Great job there for Tyler Maxson to have us on board coming through the fountain section. Coming out of turn number 8, rolling back on the throttle, and a tank slapper on the final circuit. You can hear it in your voice. You peaked the rev limiter as well. Great one for Joshua Chin, but how close was that for him potentially throwing it away in the final second half of the last lap?
Certainly a very close one for sure. We are going to have to wait just a minute while we get the final drivers to cross the line. Of course, the slowest drivers, of course, Lucas Laville expected to be the line, currently down in 7th place and just rounded his way through the fountain section for the final time of the day. Going to take a little bit of a look back and watch how close this came to disaster. Just talking about how difficult the fountain section is, and oh boy, this that's definitely going to be a talking point to Brand when we no doubt talk to him here in a little bit, because that was all too close for comfort. Gonna slow this one way down, bouncing over the concrete, showing how difficult it is. Look at how far that back end kicks out there. That's almost a wrecked car. It was shooting back to that wall. Good thing on him to wrestle it back under control. But as Lucas Laville crosses the line, I think it's time now that we go and take a look at our final finishing results. And I'll tell you what, it's been a very good run today. Joshua Chin coming away with the race victory. It's going to be Robert Groscher, the only other driver on the lead lap, 1 minute and 11 seconds down. John A. Garrett rounds out the top 3. Karsten Broadway in 4th. Jos Vandeven rounding out the top 5. Niall McBride, Lucas Laville rounding out the last 2 drivers to finish on the racing servers. Now for the DNFs, Franz Josef Stum, Liam Quinn, and Andrew Sanders rounding out the top 10. And, of course, Matt Molnar, after a heartbreaker, he's going to have to finish things off in 11th after throwing away a podium finish. Luka Elektrovic down in 12th place. You got Randy Shumay 13th. Timo Isinema in 14th. Andrew Aiken 15th. Josh Baird 16th. Again, Hoffman 17th. Caleb Weekly in 18th with Jamie Wilson rounding out the 19-car field for today. So, Rob, what an absolutely thriller of a race here. And, well, we're going to take a quick step away while we wait for some of these drivers to make the way on in here and get their celebrations done and over with. We'll be right back with the post-race show here on RaceSpot TV on the iRacing Esports Network.
Coming up to the line, being chased, and it was Braden Johnson. Unbelievable finish. It was 1/1000th of a second between them.
Green flag in the air. We are racing in the 2020 24 Hours of Daytona.
They go door to door for the feature race lead here on the last lap of the race. Side for the race lead in the final corner at Homestead.
Down the back straightaway, 3 wide again for the race lead. This is unbelievable stuff here tonight.
Paloma is going to have to be very deep on the brakes, and he is very deep on the brakes. It's side by side through the corner. This is for the win.
It'll be side by side. Davies low, Ottinger high. To the very inside is Garrett low. 4 wide at the stripe. For all he's worth here on this outside line, neck and neck. Who's going to back out? Does anyone back out? Verstappen starts to squeeze on the inside, and now he'll try and straight line it. Goes under the apron, drag race to the line. It's so close to call.
Welcome back to Detroit Belle Isle for the the post-race show for today's Classic IndyCar Series race. I'll tell you what, it has been a stellar race for Joshua Chin, who lapped almost the entire field, just about 5 seconds behind Robert Groscher when all was said and done. And now, well, it is of course time to talk to the man himself who finally came home. Joshua Chin, your road course curse has finally been broken. It was self-inflicted errors that cost you wins at the first 3. Finally, though, a very dominant win. I think this is the exact way that you go to break a curse right here.
Yeah, it was nice. The first 3 road courses had the pace and couldn't put the finish together, and had the pace and put the finish together this week, and it was nice. Good time for the team points as well, and to get the championship back in order. I don't know if I end up back ahead of Lucas out of this, but it's a good way to just get back in the rhythm.
And no doubt this is going to be the start for a nice streak for you as well. You, of course, have got 2 ovals coming up, and as we know this season, ovals have really been your thing. You've won the only 2 so far, Auto Club and Phoenix. You got New Hampshire and Kentucky coming up after this one. I take it you're hoping to go for back-to-back here coming up in the 1 mile oval in just a couple weeks here?
Yeah, it'd be nice. I like New Hampshire a lot in any of the Indy cars, and hopefully we have something good together. I think what we've learned from Phoenix will really carry over there, and hopefully get more of us a good result at New Hampshire.
Now, one thing I would like to talk about is that final lap, because you were a bit close to completely throwing it away in the fountain section there. You were bouncing over the curbs, and you just about lost that back end, and I would have cried for you, man, if you ended up losing that car. But after a bit of a close call there, I think that definitely shows, though, that this is still a very challenging track no matter what stage of the race you're at. Is that a bit of a safe assessment there?
Yeah, there was a little section in the fountain that I'd been trying to avoid in that corner. There's a little bit of a dip and a drain there, and I've been trying to avoid it all day, and especially if you get the left side too far on the curb, you'll tip the whole car over. So I was trying to avoid that, and I finally hit it for once, and about ended it there. But, a minute lead, I don't need to go and take risks there, so I just kind of backed off through the final 3-4 corners after that.
Well, it has been a very solid run for you here today, and of course, almost lapping the entire field, save for Robert Groscher, who, let's face it, you're only 5 seconds behind, so another 5 laps or so, and you would have had him too. But as we move things on into New Hampshire, who's going to help you to be fast in that car? Well, who's helped you to clearly dominate the field today and really show them how it's done?
Oh, I got to give a thanks to everyone at Team Chimera, Jamie, Niall, Liam, Andrew was out this week with a race ban from incidents, but everyone did a great job helping through the race and getting themselves to good finishes. We got decent points with Niall, so hopefully New Hampshire will get all 5 cars back up there.
And of course, that is what we're going to be hoping for you as well. Congratulations on finally breaking your road course curse here in the Classic IndyCar Series. Good to finally see you in victory lane once again at a track where you do a little bit of right turning.
Thank you, guys.
And we're just going to wait a couple more minutes here to see if anybody else is going to come and give us a chat. But while we're waiting on that, Rob, I'll tell you what, this race has definitely been stellar. It's gone exactly the way Joshua Chin's wanted it to go. I mean, he's going to retake the points lead, that's for sure, with Lucas LaVille finishing outside the top 5. But like we said, one more time, going into New Hampshire, it is, of course, a track that Joshua Chin himself has just said he thoroughly loves no matter what IndyCar he's driving there. I think that's saying something. We could expect to see yet another dominating performance.
Yeah, I think if we look back to that event that we had at Phoenix, and obviously that's what Joshua kind of tipped back at. They had really good cars at Phoenix. They were running the top 3 at one point. They just did a tremendous job working their way at that particular tough track, and that kind of is going to lend itself to potentially a bit of a preview preview for us, I think, when we get to the mile at New Hampshire. Chin likes that racetrack, which always bodes well when you come in with some confidence. And knowing that they had a great setup for Phoenix, it won't be much for them to dial it back in where they need to be for New Hampshire. Again, as you mentioned, talking to Joshua, really is an opportunity, I think, for him to get something rolling, get a streak going. The guys from Vortex will have to turn things up. They know how good Joshua and Team Chimera is on the ovals, so I expect to see those guys really dial things in. A lot of testing is going to be done in the next 2 weeks before we get to New Hampshire.
And then, of course, you do still, of course, have the other ovals that are going to be coming up on the course as well that we're expecting to see some very good performances from. You got Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and, of course, you have Indianapolis Motor Speedway to close things off. But there is a lot of road courses, so I do think it's very safe to say that Joshua Chin's fight for the title, he's going to have a good jump here, but potentially guys like Robert Groscher and Lucas Laville might be looking to run that gap down.
Yeah, I think that's what it's going to be. There's such a great cross-section of different facilities in this particular Classic IndyCar Series schedule, and I think a lot of drivers are going to have the opportunity to step to the forefront. Yeah, Joshua Chin's going to have some chances here and kind of into the wheelhouse of his program with the ovals that we have straddling the summer break, but Grosser and Laville and the Vortex guys will turn things up as well. There's tracks there that they're really going to be strong at. We know we saw Lucas Laville be so good with a couple of wins already this year, but I want to cap off my particular part of the broadcast here with a shout out again to Johnny Garrett, one of the independent drivers coming up with his own setup. An impressive run today. That's his fourth top 10 of the year. He came in, as I said, I think right around ninth in points. He's going to jump up a couple of spots for sure. A really strong run to third against some big hitters. So good run for Johnny Garrett. I'm looking forward to see where he slots in points wise before we get to New Hampshire.
Well, before we do close things off, there are a couple drivers that want to give us just one bit of a chit-chat for today, and I'll hand things back over to you, Rob, as well. Our second-place finisher, the only other driver on the lead lap, Robert Groscher, has come in to give us a little bit of a chat.
Yeah, Robert, not super fast getting into the commentary booth, but he was super fast on the racetrack. Robert, congratulations. I think coming into the event, you guys all knew that Joshua Chin was going to be the kind of the guy to beat. But for you, a good battle early with Matt Molnar. You were able to jump him on in the pits. Overall, how do you assess the race for you championship-wise?
Well, as we say that, it looks like Mr. Groscher has had some severe technical difficulties as he has quickly been ejected from the commentary booth. So,
no issues on the racetrack, Nolan, but he has issues in the commentary booth, right?
Yes. It's a bit of an ironic thing when you think about it that way. I guess we'll move things further down the line, or maybe not. We'll see if... Well, now we're going to see if now we could get this one working here. So, well, let's see if we have this again. Robert Groscher, are you with us this time?
I'm with you. Hi.
Robert, did you hear my question in the last last attempt?
Unfortunately not. My TeamSpeak crashed.
It happens. Well, there was no crashing on the racetrack for you at all. I think we all knew that Joshua Chin was going to be unbelievably fast here in Detroit, but you guys put together a really good run. Lucas had some issues early. You did not. You were able to have a good battle with Matt Molnar, put a lot of pressure on him. Then you took advantage during the pit stop to be able to leapfrog over him. Can you assess the race day itself in terms of just the day, the result, and then the championship contention?
Yeah, of course. I will start with the race result first. That was actually the maximum I was going for. I knew that Josh can only beat himself. He didn't. He was quite impressive. Congrats for the win. So I was going for P2, and actually all the others played into my favor. Lucas had some trouble. Jamie had some trouble early on. About Matt, I knew at the very beginning that he will go for the two-stopper, so I just had to sit and wait. Although it is easier said than done, I can tell you that. It was like mentally so demanding. And then after my pit stop, yeah, like just bringing it home. But again, it is so tough mentally because you cannot afford a single mistake here.
Robert, for those watching here on RaceSpot and the iRacing Esports Network, can you give a little indication, maybe a little bit of an overview of what it takes? Because only you and Josh were the guys that went one stop. I got to believe that to be able to get a one stop in a race like this on a track so challenging has to be tough. What is it? What do you have to do to be able to do this thing with just one pit stop?
Yeah, it's actually it's quite funny because I never ever expected to do this strategy. Only like a couple of days before, Lucas was bringing up. Do you remember Josh last year? He did 36 lap on a fuel tank. I said no clue. I did 32. So it's about lifting and coasting a lot, and at every opportunity you have to do the lift and coast technique, and this is also mentally very challenging because yeah, it sounds like you are driving slow, but you aren't. You are lifting, you are braking much later, you still have to hit all your marks. Again, you cannot afford the slightest mistake, otherwise your fuel number will go up. I was like constantly watching my JRT software to see whether I'm in the fuel window or not, pretty much like at Zolder, but here it was much more extreme because it was like everywhere, lifting and coasting, and still going quite fast.
So we go from here before the summer break to the run at New Hampshire. What are your thoughts moving there? You're on a pretty good streak right now. You won at Zolder. You got a second place finish here. What are your thoughts moving forward to New Hampshire?
Yeah, it's so difficult to predict because usually I would say, like based on last year before, like on the ovals, I was pretty strong. Now all of a sudden this year it changed back again, and now I'm for some reason more the road racer again. It's so tough to predict. I just want to stay in the mix to finish the championship in the top 3. Of course, it would be nice to be the best of the Vortex drivers, but Lucas is definitely a tough competitor. Yeah, top 3, that's my goal. So, yeah, a podium finish at New Hampshire, that would be amazing.
Well, obviously, a long-time runner in the Classic IndyCar Series, 3-time champion. Robert, congrats on a second place today. Anybody you want to thank right now?
Yeah, first of all, my teammates, of course, again for putting the car together during the week. And of course, you guys for another amazing broadcast. I'm really looking forward to watch it. And of course, finally, the serious sponsor, the Virtual Race Car Engineer. Big thanks for the ongoing support.
Robert, thank you so much. Well done, and indeed, a lot of great support for the series, great support for the entire Vortex Sim Racing team. The championship battle is going to be a tough one, Nolan, before we get to the end of this. A long way to go, just coming up to the halfway point of the championship standings. I know Lucas Laville standing by as well. He was the point leader coming in. We'll make sure we get Lucas up in here as well for a quick little chat with Nolan. He was the point leader coming in. Issues early on in the race, Nolan, for Lucas, but he ends up coming with a 7th place finish still. Pretty solid run for Lucas.
Absolutely. So, Lucas Laville, you, of course, were the former points leader going into this one. Of course, Joshua Chin has since retaken that points lead. You were getting set for a second place finish, and unfortunately, it didn't quite end up that way for you.
That former points leader word hurts, I have to say. Yeah. No, not the day I wanted at all. Disappointed by the qualifying run I had. I don't think I had it for Josh, but the lap could have been better. And then I tried to do too much in the race, trying to follow Josh and keep up a bit too hard. And it went all downhill from there, I guess. Probably the most intense race of my life. And it wasn't that intense racing, but just driving a bit damaged car that was on edge on all right-handers, which is an issue for a counterclockwise track, but solid point, quote-unquote, solid points day in the end. So that's that, I guess.
Still did manage to come away with a top 10 finish. And, well, I do want to talk about one thing, of course, the battle you were having with Matt Molnar. You were trying your hardest to try and keep him at bay. Of course, you backed him right up into your teammates, Robert Groscher and Timo Isunimi right behind him. And as soon as Matt Molnar managed to find his way through, you slid by and just let your teammates go on through so they could continue on battle. Was that kind of the strategy for you at that point? Just try to hold up the competition so you could try to maybe see if you could at least get the team away with some extra points there?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. I was like trying to salvage P2. I was on a one-stopper anyway, so that didn't really change the plan for me. But the car was just too undrivable, too on the edge to be able to defend, really. And Matt was on a two-stopper, so he could really be aggressive like he wanted. And yeah, as you said, I mean, no point holding my teammates up like that. The objective was to keep the points lead and go into New Hampshire with pretty solid sights into the summer break. But it is what it is. Good day for Robert. Unfortunately, Timo crashed out later, but all in all, for the team, it's not too bad.
Certainly not a bad day at all. Your team is still, of course, running second and third right now from drivers' course. You're down in second, and Groscher is right behind you in third place. Definitely hoping that we can see you back up there battling for the points lead once again with Joshua Chin in these following races, especially at Kentucky after the summer break. And Well, real quick, before we let you go then here today, who's helped you to be fast, or at least as fast as you could be in that car despite some of the difficulties today?
Big shout out to Robert and the guys for the setup work and practice and strategy work, which was a big one today. Shout out to all the guys that managed to show up and finish today. It was a tough one, as it's the nature of Detroit, I guess. And once again, big shout out to you guys. I hope you guys can manage to finish the season, because so far it's been awesome working with you, and I really wish this can continue so forward.
And thank you, Lucas Laville, for taking the time to come and talk to us. Tough break today, but hopefully you will be able to fight back later on in the future. Well, that is going to be it for yet another broadcast here of the Classic IndyCar Series. It is going to be time for us to close things off now. Of course, June 28th, the next race coming up here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. That's going to be, once again, down in Joshua Chin's territory. He said he's looking forward to it. We look forward to seeing what kind of a battle we'll be able to get us going with there today. And we do hope that we can see a lot of these drivers coming back for wins today. And it's been a very good one for the team today. Of course, I've been Olin Rempel with Rob Howdy beside me in the box for today, with Tyler Maxson behind the cameras. Thank you for joining us here today on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. We'll see you all in 2 weeks.